The Sherman Successor, how a medium tank became a heavyweight legend. Hey, tank enthusiasts, subscribe to our channel and drop your comments below. Share your thoughts on tanks, their history, and what makes them so fascinating. We want to hear from you. Tanks aren't just machines of war. They're stories of human ambition, engineering triumphs, and unexpected twists. Today, we're diving into one of the most intriguing tales in American tank history. How the quest to replace the iconic medium tank M4, better known as the Sherman, led to the creation of the heavy tank M26, famously called the Pershing. This isn't just a story about steel and firepower. It's about dreams, challenges, and the messy reality of building something revolutionary during the chaos of war. Think about a time when you started a project with a clear goal, only for it to morph into something completely different. That's exactly what happened with the Pershing. It began as a plan to build a better medium tank, but ended up as a heavy tank that straddled two worlds. From Sherman to Pershing, the journey begins. Picture America in the 1940s, right in the thick of World War II. The world is at war, and tanks are the kings of the battlefield. The Sherman, officially the medium tank M4, was America's go-to tank, a reliable workhorse that rolled off assembly lines faster than you could say patriotism. But by 1943, the Sherman was starting to show its age. German tanks like the Tiger and Panther were outgunning and out-armoring it, and the U.S. Army knew it needed a new star. The mission? Build a medium tank that could outshine the Sherman. Faster, tougher, and packing a bigger punch. Sounds simple, right? Well, as any gearhead or engineer will tell you, simple plans have a way of getting complicated. The project to create the medium tank T-20 kicked off a wild ride that would change American tank design forever. Why was the Sherman such a big deal? Before we get to the Pershing, let's talk about why the Sherman was such a legend. During World War II, the U.S. churned out nearly 50,000 Shermans, more than any other Allied tank. Here's why it was so loved. Easy to build. Shermans were mass-produced like Ford cars, flooding the battlefield with American steel. Reliable. This tank could take a beating and keep rolling, with repairs often done in hours, not days. Versatile. From standard tanks to flamethrower variants and engineering vehicles, the Sherman did it all. But it wasn't perfect. By 1943, the Sherman's 76mm gun struggled against the thick armor of German Tigers, and its own armor couldn't stand up to their powerful guns. The U.S. needed a tank that could go toe-to-toe with the best Germany had to offer. The birth of T-20, a mix of old and new. Enter the medium tank T-20, a project that was both a bold leap forward and a nod to the Sherman's proven design. The goal was to create a tank that combined cutting-edge ideas with battle-tested components. It was a gamble, but one that promised to deliver a world-class machine. What made T-20 special? New layout. The T-20 moved the transmission to the back, lowering the tank's profile and making it harder to spot. It also freed up space inside, which, trust me, is a big deal when you're crammed into a metal box with four other guys. Power block. The engine and transmission were designed to be removed as a single unit, making repairs a breeze. No more tearing apart half the tank to fix a busted motor. Firepower. The T-20 sported a 76mm gun that could punch through most German armor at medium range, a huge step up from the Sherman. Suspension. Here's where things got tricky. The engineers decided to try a torsion bar suspension, borrowed from lighter vehicles like the General Motors Corporation T-70. It worked great on paper, but on a 30-ton tank? Not so much. Trouble brewing. The T-20 looked like a winner, but problems started piling up. The torsion bar suspension, which seemed like a genius idea, wore out quickly under the tank's weight. To make matters worse, the Army didn't settle on one design. They ended up with three versions: T-20, T-22, and T-23, each with a different transmission. T-20 used a planetary Allison Torquematic transmission with a torque converter. Cool in theory, but it overheated and was a pain to maintain. T-22 had a mechanical transmission. Simpler, but still not great. T-23 featured an electromechanical transmission, tested on the heavy tank T-1E1 by General Electric. Surprisingly, this one worked best. By early 1943, the T-20 family was growing faster than a reality TV cast. Different transmissions, suspensions, and tweaks meant the project was getting messy. The dream of a perfect medium tank was starting to feel like a pipe dream. From medium to heavy, the Pershing takes shape. By 1943, the T-23 emerged as the frontrunner. The Army decided to mass produce it, but that's when things got really wild. The electromechanical transmission, which had seemed so promising, turned out to be a nightmare in the field. Dust and dirt wreaked havoc on it, and maintenance was a headache. Plus, the T-23 tipped the scales at 32.5 tons, 2.5 tons heavier than the T-20. That extra weight chewed up tracks and rollers like nobody's business. Then came the real game changer, the German Tiger OSF-E. This beast of a tank hit the battlefield, and suddenly the T-23's 76mm gun didn't look so hot. The Army decided it was time to up the ante with a 90mm gun. Enter two new tanks, the medium tank T-25 and the medium tank T-26. T-25 was essentially a T-23 with a bigger gun and new turret. T-26 got beefier frontal armor, pushing it closer to heavy tank territory. These weren't just quick upgrades. The Army learned from Germany's mistakes with the Panther, which kept getting heavier without fixing its underlying issues. The T-25 and T-26 got new suspensions and other tweaks to handle the extra weight. By summer 1944, the T-26E1 was reclassified as the heavy tank T-26E1. It was the clear winner, and the Army greenlit it for production. Pershing in action, glory and grit. By late 1944, the heavy tank T-26E3, soon to be christened the Pershing after General John Pershing, started rolling into service. This was America's answer to the Tiger and Panther, but it wasn't quite the superhero tank everyone hoped for. The Zebra mission. The Army knew the Pershing wasn't fully battle-ready, so they launched the Zebra mission, overseen by General Barnes himself, the big boss of U.S. tank development. The goal? Get the Pershing combat-ready ASAP. A batch of tanks was shipped to Europe for real-world testing, and the results were mixed. The Pershing's 90mm gun could knock out German tanks at decent ranges, and it was more agile than the lumbering Tiger. But its first run-in with a Tiger ended badly. The Pershing got knocked out. The Panther, with its powerful gun and thick frontal armor, was an even tougher opponent. Still, the Pershing showed promise, and the Army pushed forward. Pershing's pain points. Despite its potential, the Pershing had some serious flaws. Armor. Its frontal armor was thicker than the Sherman's, but still couldn't stop heavy German guns. Reliability. The suspension and transmission struggled with the tank's 40-plus ton weight, leading to frequent breakdowns. Room to grow. The Pershing had little potential for upgrades. When the Army tried adding more armor, the suspension gave out. In March 1945, the Pershing was officially designated the heavy tank M26. It saw action in the final months of World War II, but it wasn't the game changer everyone hoped for. After the war, the Soviets tested it and weren't impressed, criticizing its armor and limited upgrade potential. Korea. Pershing's final stand. The Pershing's Real test came during the Korean War in 1950. By then, it had been upgraded into the medium tank M46. But the old problems persisted. In Korea's rugged terrain, the Pershing and M46 broke down constantly. 60% of losses were due to mechanical failures, not enemy fire. It was a harsh reality check. By 1957, the Army retired both the Pershing and the Sherman, marking the end of an era. The Pershing, meant to replace the Sherman, shared its fate. The Pershing story is a classic case of ambition clashing with reality. The Army wanted a tank that could do everything better than the Sherman, but they ended up with a machine that was too heavy for a medium tank and too weak for a heavy one. Here's why. Ever-changing goals. The Army kept raising the bar: bigger gun, thicker armor, fancier transmission. The result was a tank that was too complex and unreliable. Weight woes. Like the German Panther, the Pershing suffered from weight creep. Every new feature added pounds, and the suspension couldn't keep up. Rushed development. Wartime pressure meant there wasn't time to iron out all the kinks before production. But the Pershing wasn't a failure. It taught the U.S. valuable lessons about balancing innovation with practicality. Those lessons shaped later tanks, like the medium tank T-42, and set the stage for modern designs. To really get the Pershing story, let's zoom out and look at the economics of tank building. During World War II, tanks weren't just weapons, they were big business. America's economy was a powerhouse, cranking out everything from planes to canned beans. Tanks were a key part of that machine. The Sherman was an economic marvel. Each one cost about $45,000, about $650,000 in today's money. Compare that to a German Tiger, which cost around $120,000, nearly 3 times as much. The Sherman's low cost meant the U.S. could flood the battlefield with them. The Pershing, though, was a different story. At $83,000 per tank, it was pricier and harder to produce. Its complex systems and materials drove up costs, making it less practical for mass production. In total, only about 2,200 Pershings were built, a drop in the bucket compared to the Sherman. Why it matters? The economics of tanks shaped military decisions. The Sherman's affordability let the U.S. overwhelm enemies with numbers. The Pershing's high cost and complexity limited its impact, showing that even the best designs need to balance performance with practicality. The Pershing may seem like ancient history, but its lessons are still relevant in 2025. Modern military projects like the Abrams tank or even civilian tech like electric cars face the same challenges, balancing innovation, reliability, and cost. The Abrams, for example, cost over $1 billion to develop in the 1970s, and its maintenance is still a logistical nightmare. The Pershing reminds us that chasing perfection can lead to compromises. Whether you're building a tank or a smartphone, you need to know when to stop adding features and start refining what you've got. The Pershing wasn't the legend the Sherman was, but it's a symbol of a time when engineers and soldiers dared to push the limits. It's a story of big dreams, tough realities, and the relentless drive to innovate. The Pershing may not have won the war, but it paved the way for the tanks that followed. So what's the takeaway? Keep pushing forward, but know to keep things simple. And if you love this deep dive into tank history, subscribe to our channel and leave a comment. Tell us what you think about the Pershing, the Sherman, or any other tank that's caught your eye. Got a story about a project that went off the rails? Share it. We're all ears.